Most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of his son, Jesus. I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you, preach the word of God. And I don't count it a light thing to do so. I just want to deal with just a few scriptures today or this evening, dealing with the simple principle of minding your own business. That's something that the Bible speaks about, and it's really something that'll save your life. I've seen a couple instances of men being killed or being beaten to the end of their life, and in situations that they had no business getting involved in. I just want to pick it up in 1 Thessalonians, the 4th chapter. Because here Paul gives some advice that believers need to take heed to. This is 1 Thessalonians, the 4th chapter. And I'm going to pick it up at verse 9. He says, "But as touching brotherly love, ye need not that I write unto you. For ye yourselves are taught of God to love one another. And indeed ye do it toward all the brethren, which are in all Macedonia. But we beseech you, brethren, that ye increase more and more. And that ye study," listen to this, "and that ye study to be quiet, and to do your own business, and to work with your own hands, as we commanded you." All right. It says that ye may walk honestly toward them that are without. That means outside of the faith. "And that ye may have lack of nothing." So he basically said in this life, do what's necessary to sustain yourself. And he says, study to be quiet and to do your own business. Okay, so deal with those things that pertain unto you. All right, not necessarily to somebody else. He says in the second epistle to Thessalonians, he had heard some news about how people were behaving. He says in 2 Thessalonians, the 3rd chapter, in verse 7, he said, "For yourself know how ye ought to follow us, for we behave not ourselves disorderly among you. Neither did we eat any man's bread for naught, but wrought with labor and travail night and day, that we might not be chargeable to any of you." So they were working to sustain themselves, even though they actually could have received money from the people because of their position as in ministry. Nevertheless, he says, "Not because we have not power, but to make ourselves an example unto you to follow us." So he said, we did that to show you an example how you should be. Then he said something. "For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all." Then he says something, "but are busybodies." Right? So you engage in other men's matters. That's not what you should be doing. Peter says a similar thing. Let's pick it up in 1 Peter. And we're in the 1 Peter, the 4th chapter. 1 Peter 4 and verse 15 reads, he says, "But let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other man's matters. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf." So again, there's certain things that believers just simply should not be engaged in, right? And that's something, being a busybody, being in other people's business, is not something you really think about, but the Bible speaks against it. Let's go to the book of Proverbs. And these wisdom writers, we see similar things, advice, instruction, directions on how to behave, what you should avoid. Let's go to Proverbs. And let's pick it up in Proverbs, the 20th chapter, in verse 3. Proverbs 20:3 says, "It is an honor for a man to cease from strife, but every fool will be meddling." See, it's a foolish thing to go meddling into somebody else's business. But it is an honor to cease from strife. Right? Let's stay in Proverbs and go to the 26th chapter. 26th chapter and verse 20, because here we find out more about meddling, right, and keeping up mess. So you see a lot of that, even in congregations of believers. You'll see people who will keep up mess. He said, this is 26 and 20. He said, where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. So where there is no talebearer, the strife ceaseth. What's a talebearer? Somebody who's whispering about people. Hey, I heard such and such did this, such and such did that. Nah, because he tells you what the problem with that is. He says in Proverbs 18:8, the words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. Somebody talking behind somebody's back about this, gossiping. You shouldn't do that. Again, where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. So where there is no talebearer, the strife ceaseth. Okay. In Proverbs 22:10 says, cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. See, so you got somebody who's keeping up mess. They're the problem. And when you get rid of them, you've gotten rid of the problem. Last place, 26 and verse 17. Because there's consequences when you do this. And like I said, I've seen somebody get into other people's matters, and it didn't turn out well. Proverbs 26 and 17. He that passeth by and meddleth with strife, belonging not to him, is like one that taketh a dog by the ears. You take a dog by the ears, grab a dog, you don't know, grab him by the ears, and you see what happened to your face. And that's what can happen to you, meddling in other people's business and keeping up strife. So